The Mopar auxiliary switch bank is for those of you that have a 2018 and up JL that doesn't have the switches from the factory but want to be able to add them so that when you add electronic accessories such as winches, lights, air compressors, lockers, whatever it might be, you have a really clean and factory looking way to switch those accessories. Getting this Mopar auxiliary switch panel wired up is going to be a harder 2 out of 3 wrenches for the installation. We're not going to go up to 3 out of 3 wrenches, but it is going to be a little bit more of a difficult 2 out of 3, and we're going to show you how to do it. So as I just mentioned, this is a factory option that you can get when the Jeep rolls off the assembly line, but if you decided not to get it, you can add it later with this part. It's going to give you a total of 4 different switches that you can use for a variety of different accessories. You're going to have spots where you can pick up those new circuits either here in the passenger side footwell or underneath the hood right next to the battery. So whether it's an accessory for the inside of the vehicle or the outside, you're going to be able to tap into those new circuits. Of course, everything is properly relayed and fused and works flawlessly with the CAN bus system on the Jeep and with the Uconnect system, which is what really makes these switches cool. So once you have this panel installed here, you do have to take your Jeep to a dealership and have it flashed, which again, Tony's gonna talk more about in just a second. But once you do, you'll be able to go right on your new Connect system and set these switches up to work in a particular way. So you can set them up as an ignition hot or a constant hot, and you can also set them up as either a latch or a momentary switch. So depending on what you're using the switch to power, you can really get it dialed in exactly how you want it. As you can see here, we have a couple of custom stickers over top of our switches, denoting exactly what we're using them for. From the factory out of the box, they'll just say auxiliary 1 through 4 on them. If you want to change that out, you can, or it's only 4 switches. You'll probably be able to remember what you're using them for. So overall, I think this is a really nice kit because it is such a clean install and it is super functional. This kit is going to run you right around that $375 mark. And again, if you didn't get this from the factory and you want to add it on, I think $375 is a really good deal. I think this is going to be an excellent option if you're adding any sort of electronic accessories onto your JL. So Tony's going to show you how to get this installed right now.
Tools used for this installation are as follows. We have a small impact driver and ratchet, a 5.5mm socket and a 10mm socket, a screwdriver attachment, a depinning tool, a small flathead screwdriver, a panel removal tool, a cutting tool, and something to retrieve the wires through the firewall. Now, upon opening the box, this may look a tad bit daunting, but I promise you it's really not that difficult. Just follow along with me. We can get this installed with no problem. Now to begin, we're going to set up the bracket and lay the harness across our engine bay, get it laid out where it's going to be. Then we'll go ahead and start making our connections. We'll feed our wires into the cabin, get our switches mounted, and get everything wired and plugged in. Let's go ahead and get started. Now with a 10mm socket, we're going to remove these 3 nuts here on the top of our cowl. Now this is where our bracket is going to bolt down using our existing hardware, and we're just going to lift this up and forward so we can run our harness behind it, then we'll put it right back and bolt it back down. All right, now with our harness laid across the back of our cowl, we'll get back to zip tying that down and out of the way in a moment, but you're gonna have 3 pigtails that come off of our harness. The one here with the inline fuse and the 2 eyelets, that's gonna go to the positive side of our battery. The second one here, you're gonna see 4 wires with little ends on them that say aux 1 through 4. Those are gonna run behind our fuse box and up here next to our battery. These are your auxiliary wires that are gonna come out here into your engine bay that hook up to your switch panel. That's gonna have another wire with an eyelet on it that we're gonna ground out right here on our inner wheel well. Our last one, this is the one we're gonna feed down through a grommet in the firewall into our interior. To get to that, we're gonna have to go ahead and remove our inner fender well. So we're gonna have to remove a few plastic rivets that were put in by the factory, but don't worry, the kit does come with a few new ones, so we can go ahead and replace those. Now with our same 10mm socket, we're gonna go ahead and remove this nut on our ground wire. Now you're gonna see 3 nuts here on the side of your inner fender well. You're gonna use the furthest forward one that there is, and that's where our ground wire will attach. Next, we're gonna come up to our positive battery terminal, and we're gonna take the furthest back terminal bolt off. Now that's the same 10mm. All right, now down here in our wheel well, there's 4 plastic rivets on the outside of our fender that we have to clip off. Now we're just gonna use a pair of cutters, snip the heads off, they'll pop right out. There's 2 push clips here at the bottom of our inner fender liner. We're gonna go ahead and fold that back, retrieve the wires, and push them through our rubber grommet. Now I switched over to a pocket knife for my cutters just so I can get behind them a little bit better. All right, now we have our harness ready to go through our grommet and our firewall here in our inner fender well. Now it's extremely hard for us to show you exactly where that grommet is because it's actually tucked up behind everything. But what I did was I went ahead and passed my retrieval tool through that grommet from the inside, and I taped our wires to it. That way I could tug it back through. So we're gonna show you the best we can on where this grommet is, but it's actually just under the fuse box inside of our fender well. All right, now as you can see, our harness is here on our passenger side floor. We need to get a few interior panels out of the way so we can get this wired in and set where it needs to be. First, we're gonna go ahead and pull our glove box out so we can fish the wires over towards under the radio. But we also need to get our kicker panel out of here so we can wire this up and integrate it into our system. To do that, we're gonna go ahead and pull this cover off. This is the cover to access your door hook and harness. I already have that unplugged and the door flipped open just so I have a little bit of extra room. This isn't necessary, I just don't happen to be very small. So we're gonna go ahead and take a 10mm bolt out of here, pop all this out, get it out of the way, pop our glove box out, and we can go ahead and start wiring that in. All right, now here on this light gray plug that is stored down here in our kick panel, we're gonna have to remove one wire from this plug, add a wire into it, and then reuse that wire into a jumper plug that goes into our new harness that comes in our kit. So to do this, we're gonna have to go ahead and remove this black cover. Now you can use a small flathead screwdriver. Then we're gonna come and remove this red cover here on the front, also just with a flathead screwdriver. Now the wire we're gonna remove is down here on the bottom. You're gonna see two rows of wires that are very close together. On the top row of those, when holding the plug this direction, on the top row, it's gonna be the fifth one over. It's gonna be an orange wire. Now it's actually pinhole number 13 because they do count the rest of these wires as 1 through 8. 9 starts here on the end, so it's gonna be number 13, but it's gonna be the fifth one over on the top row of those two rows of wires. Now, to remove this, you are gonna need a small specialty tool. It's gonna be a depinning tool. Go ahead and pop this out. Now we're just gonna fill that spot with the matching wire that's on our new harness. Now we're gonna go ahead and take our new plug that comes in the kit and assemble it, but we're not gonna push these together yet because that'll set the locks on them and it'll be very difficult to get the wires in. But we're gonna take the wire that comes in our factory harness and plug it into our new plug, set it all the way down till you hear it click into place. Now, when putting the other end that comes on our new harness into here, you wanna make sure that you line them up on the right sides. Set the lock. Then we'll just go ahead and plug those into each other. That part of the wiring is done. We can go ahead and plug this back in. We'll just zip tie that all back out of the way. This is also the spot that your interior auxiliary lines are going to be placed. All right, next we're going to get our center of our dash here apart. And I'm just going to take a small pry tool, slowly start popping this out. Go ahead and just get this all unplugged and out of the way. Now we can go ahead and get a Phillips head screwdriver, take this bolt out, and we can get this piece out so we can start getting our switches mounted. Just go ahead and unplug everything from the back of this. Then we can take this over to the table. We can go ahead and remove this pocket and install our switch panel and new pocket into this. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove the 7 screws that hold our old pocket into place. And we're doing that with a 5.5 millimeter socket. Just take your time if you're using a electric nut driver. This is only plastic. You don't want to force anything. Get our new pocket into place. Hold that down with a few of the screws. Now we're not going to put this screw in because this one overlaps with our new switches. Now we can go ahead and get that screw in. Now we can go ahead and get this back in our Jeep, but before we do that, we have to go and wire up this plug. All right, now to wire up our plug that goes in the back of our switches, you're gonna wanna read the back of the plug. You'll see numbers, you'll see 1 to 5, and then 6 to 10. Now in the instructions, there is a diagram, but I'm gonna tell you what they are now. In position number 1, you're gonna put your red wire, and just push that in so you hear it click. In position number 3, we're gonna skip number 2. You're gonna get your brown with the orange stripe. Position number 4 is gonna get the brown with the violet stripe. Now we're gonna go underneath here. Position number 6 gets the brown with the white stripe. Position number 7 gets the brown with the gray stripe. Number 9 will get your orange one. We're skipping number 8. And your final wire, your black one, will go into number 10. After they're all in, you heard the click. Go ahead and push this white retainer down, and that's gonna lock them into place. Now we're ready to run this up behind here so we can plug it into our new switch panel. Here's our new plug, neatly ran out of the way. Let's go ahead and get our panel back in. All right, now we can go ahead and start putting all our plugs back and get our dash back together. All right, now that's all it takes to install our Mopar switch bank in our Jeep JL Wrangler. Now all you have to do is take it down to the dealership so they can flash your ECU. That way you can use your switch bank connected with your Uconnect. Now for more parts and videos like these, make sure you visit us right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.